over here. Okay. So first, just
Do we look at the camera?
you can look at me or the camera.
Oh, okay.
So just introduce yourselves first to the camera, and then you can talk to me for the rest.
My name's Armando Carrillo. I'm Rosa and Durrell's grandpa.
My name is Rosie Carrillo and I'm Rosen's grandma.
Awesome. Okay. Our first question is, did you experience segregation at school or know of anyone who did?
You know, when we went to school, the Mexicans were the majority. There's probably 80% Mexicans compared to 20% gringos or the Caucasians. So no, not so much when we're small kids.
No, I didn't either. Armando went to school in Clifton and I went to school in Morenci. So as far as school is concerned, I didn't feel segregated from anybody. And I think there we were like we were more Mexicans. Well, I mean, we were like equal, I guess. 50-50, I don't know.
Did you live on segregated streets or have experiences with segregation?
I didn't, because like I said, I lived, but you know, there was like a little thing, like North Clifton, it was, you know, it's a mixed population, more Mexicans than anything else. But in South Clifton, it was more gringos. Matter of fact, at one time you couldn't live in, even when I was young, you couldn't live in South Clifton. That was entirely white. And it stayed like that for a long time, probably till the early 60s. I think my father-in-law was one of the first Mexicans who bought a house there.
Where we lived in Morenci, I lived in Gila Street, and we were segregated. And I guess back then, when I was in school, I really didn't realize that we were, because we didn't get treated different from anybody at school, but we were separated. There was black families. There was like 3 black families there in my street. And the rest of us were Mexican. The black families, there was one that learned how to speak Spanish, because they played with the kids all the time, so they spoke Spanish too, just like the other kids. But there was no white people there where we lived. They were up on top, Sunset and all up there. And then there was a place called Site 3, and there it was mostly Mexicans. And then there was another place called Tent City, and the Indians lived there. So we were segregated, but we didn't feel it. I guess we didn't know about it. I don't know.
We didn't care.
We were friends with everybody, so.
The next question is, what were your dreams for career and education as a kid, and then what did you end up doing?
You know what, this is sad to say, but I never had any dreams. I wish I would have had. I just was one of those guys that what comes may come. And I wish now that, of course, it's always, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. I wish I would have had a dream. And I gotta work for it, you know. 'Cause any dream that you have, you gotta work for it. It's not just given to you. And you know, later on I did well. You know, I served 3 different apprentices when I worked and everything. But you know, my mom tried to encourage me one time when I got out of the service. She said, "Why don't you go to school? Go to college?" And I just didn't want to go. I said, "I don't know, Mom. Maybe not." And then I got called for the mine for free Phelps Dodge at that time, and I went there and I started working, and it seems like time just caught on, and all of a sudden I retired. Never really wish I would have had dreams. I see my granddaughter, so many dreams that they have, but the kids, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them have dreams. So that's good, man. dreams are like hope. They keep you going.
I really didn't have any dreams growing up. When I got to high school, I wanted to be a beautician, and I had to drive to Safford, and I was very timid, and the girls that I was driving with had already finished. They were gonna finish in 3 months. So I just dropped out because I didn't want to drive to Safford. And then I went to work at a drugstore in the Fountain, and then I met Armando, and we got married. So
So she was my dream.
I became a mom,
I
and
became a-
that was my a housewife, and I love it. I loved it. So it was good.
Yeah. Did you guys see any differences between like opportunities for Mexican people and maybe white people in the town?
Yes. Even in the mine. I mean, when you put in for the mine, you're a Mexican, you're going to the smelter. That's all there was to it. A few people would go to the pit, but the majority, or the mill, but the majority went to the smelter. That's the way it was. And the good thing though is you did have opportunities afterwards. I didn't know it, but it was because of Martin Luther King and his stand for against prejudice and discrimination. Apprenticeships were open to us then. Before then, they were open, but not really, because when your name would, it used to work with time, your name would come up, and all of a sudden, someone would jump you. Well, after they started with affirmative action, that's what I want to say, they couldn't jump you. So, hey, your name came up, you were going to that apprenticeship you put in for. So that was a good thing that PD had to do, is open up their apprenticeships. Before that, all the Christians were white people, and all the Americans were Mexicans, and you know, it just wasn't. You weren't afforded a lot of opportunities. Even as foreman jobs, you know, you weren't afforded a lot.
I think with me in school, I was average. I wasn't, and probably because I didn't apply myself. But I just feel like the smarter kids were separated from us, and we would take different classes than what they did. So I didn't consider myself smart. I considered myself average. So I don't know. I never pursued doing anything else because I didn't think I was smart.
And it's funny you say that, because I took higher classes in all my classes from freshman till I graduated, you know, but I never did anything with them. I mean, I passed them and I did well in them, but you know, it just, I don't know. I was like I tell the little kids that don't listen to the bus, I was just a motorhead. They won't listen.
Did you see differences in education or dreams growing up in school, especially in high school, between kids who were white and who weren't white, and like their trajectories in life?
Yes. You know, a lot of, I don't know why, I think because of finances, a lot of gringos, white, unless you use Caucasians, that's the proper word. Their parents had better jobs, higher paying jobs. A lot of them went to college because, you know, it was expected of them. And a lot of Mexican families, well, they had a lot of kids, more kids than their Caucasians, and they couldn't afford to help them very much. But a lot of them still, even with those adversities, did well. You know, they did well. I remember a friend of mine, Bobby Trujillo, he was a mess up, man. Anyway, he ended up going to the service at 17, went to Vietnam at 18, got out, went to school. Remember, he flunked out. He didn't flunk out. They threw him out of school. Back then, if you got two or three Fs, they threw you out, which doesn't make any sense at all, you know. But anyway, he applied himself, and he ended up being a professor there at the U of A. And I attribute a lot to his wife, who was very smart and helped him a lot. And anyway, you know, stuff like that, you know. But we were all afforded opportunity. We just didn't. I don't know. We just thought we were gonna be young forever.
No, we didn't apply ourselves. I think that's
Everything was
the
too
main-
hard, and it wasn't too hard.
And then for so the Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision outlawed segregation in schools. Do you think that had an impact on your families? Going from segregated to non-segregated schools?
No, because our schools were segregated, really. You know, so no, and I think if you're in the South, that's where you have, or even Texas. Texas was really bad segregation, but not where we were at. Maybe in Phoenix or somewhere. I don't even think in Phoenix, but no, with us, no. But at one time, I remember Mom telling me, back in the 30s and 40s, they had 2 high schools. They had one for the Caucasians and one for the Mexicans. But if you were a really smart Mexican, you could go to the Caucasian one. But the rest of them, you're gonna go to the Mexican one. And you know, I don't know if people don't know this, but there was actually a black school in Houston.
Really?
Yes, in Wards Canyon. You know where Tommy's mom lives?
Yeah.
Okay, right by there. You look way up it'd be on my right side going down. There's a building there. If you look at it, it was a school. It was a school there for we had black people come in during World War II to help with all the work that had to be done. So they let them come here. They let them go to that school, and you know they could probably tell you a lot more. Like I remember a story Miss Mack told us. Miss Mack used to own the Big Dipper where Little Frisco's at. It was a little restaurant called. It was a teenage hangout, but anyway, it goes. And anyway, when they came and talked to her. Told her, "You cannot let these black people come in this." He says, "What do you mean? He says, why can't I let them? They just gotta spend money." No, he says they have to go to a door. And they have to order you can take their orders, but they can't come in here. You gotta get the orders and then take the food out. And even Miss Mack, and she was a Caucasian, couldn't understand that. She was also a teacher at one time. She had retired as a teacher. That's why I knew about that black school there.
What was that question?
Before you sleep?
No.
It was, did you find any differences between people who were white and non-people who weren't white in their school education trajectory, and do you think that had an impact on your family?
No, I think my mom and dad were glad that all of us went to school and graduated high school. Because they didn't get that opportunity. They had to go work and they didn't get to graduate. So I think they were glad that all of us went to school. And I had one sister that didn't stay with my mom and dad. She was raised by our grandparents and they didn't send her to school in Colorado. So that was sad, you know, that she didn't get to go to school.
Do you guys see school as a great privilege to have?
Yes, by all means. Not everybody has this privilege to go to school. School's free. We're not charged. I mean, school's free. I mean, you go to other countries. You go to Mexico. You got to pay for a lot of the things that you do anywhere. You know, I mean, this is a great opportunity. And I think these schools, I think they bend over backwards too much, you know, because I think some kids and parents with them, you know, they want everything on their terms, and you know what, it shouldn't be like that.
How about you, Carl? Do you think school's a privilege?
Yes, it's very much a privilege. I see the kids. I see you and my grandkids. I mean, you're abounding in your education, and even my great grandson, which is 6, he's abounding, and he's barely in kindergarten, but he can read, and I think that's great.
Yeah. I think it was because of what you guys started That's why we get the opportunity to do what we do.
Mm.
That's why I can dream to be an engineer and I can have dreams.
Yes.
Because you guys paved the way for me to be able to have those dreams. Yeah. Is there any other things you want to mention about any segregation, discrimination, education?
Yeah, I have a little story. I probably told them on one of my talks I gave. When I went to the service. It was 1969. Martin Luther King had just been shot in 1967. So there was still a lot of racial tension there in the South. I can't remember what city I was in. It was in the South. I don't know, it was Alabama, Georgia. I can't even. But I was in a bus going somewhere, and I had to stop to use the bathroom. So I walked into this bathroom. It said black, white. I said, I know I'm not black. I said, I know I'm not white. So where do I go, the black or the white one? And I thought, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to the black one. And I thought later on, I should have got it. No, I said, I'm in less trouble if I got to the black one. And I did, but, so that was fairly,
Oh yeah.
yes, so I see that. And I remember seeing the water fountains, the same thing. Even where to wash your hands, even where you would, in the bus stations especially, where you would sit down to eat the cafe was open to everybody, but there were certain places to sit,
Mm-hmm.
I could pass more as a black person than I could a white person,
I think when my mom and dad came over here from Colorado, and I think it was 1941, my dad said that they couldn't go into a bar because it was just for whites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're in Duncan, right?
In Duncan. So there was segregation.
Mhm.
For them, I think more than for us.
So with the separate but equal segregation laws, did you guys find that anything that was separate was really equal?
You know what I read? They always said that, well, it's separate but equal, but the schools weren't equal. The schools were for the black people, especially for the Mexicans in Texas, and probably in places in Arizona. They were so substandard. I mean, they were just falling apart buildings. They weren't heated. It was just, but the Caucasian schools were great, very nice. What you expect. Yeah. They were separate, but they weren't equal. They use that term to make it sound like, well, we're separate, but we're equal. No, it wasn't equal. You didn't have an equal opportunity.
Do you guys think that if you'd grown up in the same time period, but you had been white, do you think that you would have chosen different paths in life?
I cannot imagine myself being white. I cannot imagine myself being a Caucasian. It's hard for me. It's like, can you imagine if you were an alien from space? Things would have been different. I would never want to. I had friends. I remember I had a guy. He wasn't my friend. He was an acquaintance, not a good one. His thought to life was, I would have done a lot better if we would have been white. And I thought to myself, why would you want to be white? We have such a rich culture. White people have such a drab culture, as far as I'm concerned. We have families. We have a lot of things that mean so much to us. So it's hard for me to say. I don't think so. I wouldn't even want to be considered white. It'd be a nightmare. I woke up one day and I look at it.
Yeah, I think we were satisfied with what we were. Well, we love our culture, and we're satisfied with what the Lord brought us through.
I remember a guy making a statement to me. It made a lot of sense. You're not a Mexican American. You're an American of Mexican descent. That's what we are. We're Americans of Mexican descent. Not Mexican Americans. We're Americans first. Then we're of Mexican descent.
Any final comments?
No, but I think it'd be a lot different if we were from the South.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot different. What the black people had to go through.
Imagine being Hispanic in the South. What would that be like?
What?
Being like Hispanic in the South? I don't even know what that would be like.
I don't know. I don't either.
Probably.
I don't know. There was a lot at that time. There was a lot of Hispanics, and they must have been. There were some, but not enough to. And you know what? If if you study it, you'll notice like in Detroit, when they started building cars.
Yeah.
Well, they did have, a lot of Mexicans did go up there to work, but they had Mexican towns. They were pull-out town, Polish people also, you know, they all segregated themselves, you know.
Yeah.
Not because they were separated, but they wanted to be around their people.
Yeah. Anything?
No.
Alright, that is all.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Wait. No, thank you. Mira, tú los squirrels.
Wendy, she hasn't turned off the camera.